Number 9. Lauren Marie Dooley. On September the 28th of 2022, Lauren Marie Dooley tortured a 21-year-old man she'd met on Tinder after restraining him with duct tape in her Colorado apartment. The victim's name was redacted from the affidavit released to the public in order to preserve his privacy. He indicated that he and 22-year-old Dooley had been intimate with one another in the moments before she tied him up to her bed. He reluctantly consented, but the situation quickly escalated to violence. Once he was restrained, Dooley began slashing him with a knife and choked him when he protested. Following the assault, she reportedly ordered food, threatening to kill her victim if he attempted to alert the delivery driver. After Dooley fell asleep, the man managed to break free from his restraints and fled the apartment fully naked. His captor chased after him, and concerned neighbors called 911. When the police arrived at the scene, they discovered bloody rags and sheets, as well as the knife she'd used during the attack. The victim was taken to the hospital and treated for his non-life-threatening injuries, while Dooley was taken into custody and charged with second-degree kidnapping and assault. Number 8. Asheri Gadsden. A 21-year-old South Carolina resident participated in the murder of Alan Philpian Johnson III following a robbery gone wrong on January the 9th of 2022. Asheri Gadsden had initially met the 24-year-old victim on Tinder. She formulated a plot to trick the young man into allowing her into his house, along with her accomplices Joshua Latrey Mack, aged 28, and Zora Simone Henderson, aged 19. The ill-intentioned trio eventually killed the homeowner, after which a heavily intoxicated Gadsden contacted the police and waited for them in the driveway. She led them into the victim's apartment, where officers came upon Johnson's lifeless body. An autopsy would later reveal that he'd been shot 4 times during the home invasion. Officers arrested Gadsden, who initially claimed that she'd had nothing to do with the crime. During questioning, she told detectives that she'd heard a gunshot while in the bathroom and rushed into the living room to discover her date lying unresponsive on the ground. However, detectives discovered deleted messages in the suspect's cell phone that implicated her involvement. Gadsden finally confessed to plotting the robbery, but claimed that Mack had been the one to shoot Johnson after the latter had attempted to disarm him. Number 7. Luis Savondo Almanza, Aranana Morning Martinez, and Sierra Petit. In September of 2021, an unidentified man was held hostage for several hours by Luis Savondo Almanza, Aranana Morning Martinez, and Sierra Petit, following an ill-fated Tinder date. The trio, aged between 19 and 26 at the time, invited the victim to a house party in Oklahoma City. After he asked to be paid back for the drinks he'd purchased for the group, tensions escalated and violence ensued. Almanza, Martinez, and Petit held the man captive, threatening him with a 12-gauge shotgun and a knife. He was forced into a car, and the suspects drove him to several stores, using his bank cards to purchase various items, including clothes. They also allegedly destroyed the man's phone in order to keep him from calling for help. Before eventually releasing him, the 3 suspects threatened to harm him and his family if he contacted the authorities. The victim decided to report the incident nonetheless. The police subsequently arrested Almanza, Martinez, and Petit on charges of kidnapping and aggravated robbery. Number 6. Mika Ort. Mika Ort, a 21-year-old woman attending university in the Netherlands, was murdered by a Tinder date turned stalker on March the 8th of 2022. Ort, who was born to a Dutch father, had traveled from Massachusetts to Leeuwarden in 2020 in order to pursue her studies. She went on several dates with a 27-year-old man identified only as Thomas R., whom she'd met on the dating app before eventually deciding to rekindle her relationship with ex-boyfriend Michael van der Waal. Refusing to accept the young woman's rejection, Thomas tracked her down, placed a GPS device on her bike, and broke into her apartment. He proceeded to fatally stab Ort, also wounding 2 other men who were at the house at the time of the attack. Thomas fled the scene in the aftermath, but was later turned into the authorities by his parents. Number 5. Jordan Cobbold. Jordan Cobbold, a 21-year-old resident of Suffolk, England, trashed Alicia Moy's apartment after she ended their Tinder romance on April the 9th of 2021. The couple had been dating for a month when Moy, aged 20 at the time, decided that they weren't a good match. Cobbold became irate and took the young woman's spare key in retaliation. Moy explained the breakup by expressing her belief that he'd grown too intense and needy. After she ended their relationship over text message, Cobbold blocked her number and waited until she left for work to enter her apartment. The scorned lover poured beans and spaghetti into her shoes, painted the walls with condiments and covered the vacuum cleaner with cooking sauce. Cobbold also severed cables on each of Moy's kitchen appliances, turned off the refrigerator's power, and threw cooking oil on the floor. The young man was arrested after his ex contacted the authorities about his infantile actions. In January of 2022, he accepted a plea deal in connection to charges of criminal damage and burglary. Cobbold was consequently ordered to serve 180 hours of community service, as well as 2 years of probation. He was also forced to pay his victim $1,750 in restitution and was forbidden from making any form of contact with Moy for 5 years. Number 4. Levante Stuckey. On July the 9th of 2022, Levante Stuckey attempted to assault his Tinder date, holding her at gunpoint in the garage of a Las Vegas hotel. The woman, whose identity wasn't made public, agreed to a meetup with Stuckey and got into his car, at which point he locked the doors and allegedly became violent. The man forced his victim into the back seat, demanding she perform intimate acts while threatening her with a firearm. During the course of the altercation, the woman somehow managed to use her phone to contact a friend, who helped her escape from the assailant's vehicle. Stuckey then sped away from the scene, hitting 2 other cars in the process. The 2 women contacted the authorities, providing them with Stuckey's license plate number, which eventually led to his arrest. He was charged with kidnapping and his bail was set at $10,000. Number 3. Sierra Wayman. Kentucky teen Sierra Wayman set up a meeting with Covington resident Peyton Browning over Tinder, secretly plotting to extort money from him. On September the 8th of 2020, Wayman invited Browning over to her house. Minutes after he arrived, 2 strangers knocked on the door. One of them was later identified as 19-year-old Philip Snyder, while the second man wasn't identified to the public. They attempted to assault Browning, who was carrying a weapon, and shot at his attackers in self-defense. Police subsequently arrived at the scene after having been contacted by Browning himself, and the 2 assailants were taken to the ER with non-fatal gunshot wounds. 19-year-old Wayman was taken to the Kenton County Jail on robbery charges. Her bond was set at $5,000 by the judge presiding over her case. Number 2. Joshua Hamblett, Sashwana Wilkins, and Keegan Profet. In 2019, 23-year-olds Joshua Hamblett and Sashwana Wilkins, along with 19-year-old Keegan Profet, were arrested in Ontario, Canada, after attempting to traffic a woman they'd met on Tinder. The woman, who chose to remain anonymous, told the police that she'd agreed to meet one of the suspects in a hotel room, but the man became violent once they were alone. It's suspected that Profet was the individual in charge of making initial contact with the victim, although his accomplices arrived at the hotel room shortly thereafter. After taking lewd pictures of the woman and uploading them online, the trio offered her services on the ad listing site LeoList. Hamblett, Wilkins, and Profet pressured her into performing escort services by threatening her family if she refused. They also confiscated the money she received during her appointments. The 2 23-year-olds were arrested on December the 1st of 2019, while Profet managed to elude capture until the 18th. They were each charged with over a dozen combined offenses, including assault, making threats, and human trafficking. Police suspected the group of targeting other women with similar schemes and urged any of their past victims to come forward. Number 1. Jose Sandoval Juarez and Crystal Halsey. Jose Sandoval Juarez, 32, and Crystal Halsey, 33, were accused of catfishing a man on Tinder in order to carry out a robbery on September the 17th of 2022, when the unnamed victim showed up for a date with a woman he knew only as Sonia at a hotel room in Phoenix, Arizona. The two suspects allegedly held him at gunpoint, demanding his cell phone and bank account information. The man was then forced to drive his assailants to a nearby bank, where he withdrew $900 from his account. Juarez and Halsey subsequently took off on their own and managed to withdraw $3,000 more before the bank cards were reported stolen and deactivated. Detectives assigned to the case discovered that the couple had booked the hotel room using their real names, leading to their arrest on September the 28th. The suspects led police on a high-speed chase through several cities, driving on the wrong side of the road and attempting to carjack another vehicle before finally being apprehended. They were indicted for assault and armed robbery with a deadly weapon, as well as several other charges, as they awaited the continuation of their case's legal proceedings. Thanks for watching. Would you rather never be allowed to play any games on your phone again, or never be allowed to use a dating app? Let us know in the comments section below.